Global Transformation Astrology, GTA, with William Stickevers.
Now, I talked about the positive side to the Jupiter-Saturn-Pluto, the unceasing impulse towards renewal and regeneration, the awareness of the growth-promoting value of painful experiences or setbacks, a recognition of the positive side of adversity and suffering for some form of transformation, followed by transcendence to occur. However, there's a very powerful negative side. There is a shadow element to this conjunction, and the nature of Saturn-Pluto in itself is not an easy one for most people to accept. So Jupiter has very much to do with philosophy. It has to do with a worldview or a philosophical approach. So what we'll see here with this Jupiter-Saturn-Pluto triple conjunction, and remember, folks, it is coming into place now. It is formulating. It is within very tight orb. In mundane astrology, we use much larger orbs. Anything within 10 degrees that is culminating is already in effect. So what we're going to see is a philosophical justification for ruthless pursuits and hardened, ruthless ambition where the ends justify the means. This will happen on both sides of the spectrum. This is going to happen with the young and the old, the rich and the poor, the Democrats and the Republicans. It's going to happen where there's going to be a philosophical justification for ruthless, hardened, ambitious pursuits where the ends will justify the means. The ethic of the survival of the fittest, the desire to raise one at the expense of others is going to prevail at this time. And this is going to play out not only within this country, but it's going to play out with the European Union in regards to British exit. It's going to play itself out with how China and the United States are playing their political chess moves with each other. And we're seeing here a systematic and calculating opportunism that is going to be pervasive in the body politic of not only the US, which we're seeing now with the impeachment or the so-called impeachment process, right? There's still no impeachment yet, by the way. Let's get that straight. And the state of being dominated, there's a state of being dominated by inner energies. And at the same time that we see this systematic calculating opportunism for ruthless pursuit, where the ends justify the means and survival of the fittest is the end game, then we're also going to see at the same time a breakdown of the fractional reserve system, the fiat currency system, fractional reserve banking system, fractional reserve lending system. And we will also see the constricting effects of the mechanistic, materialistic, scientific worldview on humanity and human evolution begin to break down as well. There will be revelations within industry where the breakdown of the mechanistic, materialistic means of production and economy will begin to break down and go through a transformation. The constricting effects of the mechanistic, materialistic, scientific worldview will begin to break down based on new revelations and breakthroughs on what we believe how humanity actually came into being. I believe there will be revelations that will destroy the whole premise of evolution as we have been taught to understand it in our primary and secondary education. So we're going to see that play out. And also there's going to be an awareness of the greed and aggression as civilization destroyers. People are aware of this now, but it's going to become blatant, where greed is not our friend. Aggression has its limits. And the greed and aggression that has been so pervasive and systemic for the 20th century, the fallout from that is going to come up very strongly. And so we'll see the breakdown of the materialistic compensation in modern life as wholly inadequate for the soul. We'll see more suicides. We'll see people having more near-death and attempted suicides, especially in the baby boomers population, where they believe that materialistic compensation for the type of modern life that they were duped into living is going to fall short. They're not going to have that retirement they were planning. We'll see that the beginning and collapse of the investment, the traditional establishment systems, all of this is going to happen. So there's going to be an unceasing impulse to renewal and regeneration, a capacity for stupendous need to be disciplined in service to this vast evolutionary wave. And it's very important here to keep your perspective that what is happening now is unprecedented in history, unprecedented. So let's go into the particulars real quick. like I said earlier, the largest wealth and political gap since the late 1930s that existed then exists today, which is leading to the emergence of the conflicts between the populists of both the left and the populists of the right. So it's both extremes. The populism, like we saw in the late 1930s, is going to emerge in a very powerful way in the upcoming 2020 election. So therefore, it's likely that the general election, I will say, is going to be the greatest ideological clash we have seen in our lifetime. It'll probably be one of the most significant general elections in the history of all U.S. elections when historians look back upon this period and reflect it against other periods in U.S. history. So what we saw in the 30s and what we will see now in the early 2020s into 2024 is approaching the extreme fascist communist clash with capitalism. So we're seeing this new form of fascism, socialism, clashing with the capitalistic sort of libertarian model that has been more or less operative in the US since the 1930s. And it's also likely that after the election, there will be many more conflicts, tax law changes, wealth redistributions that will have big implications for markets and economies that we saw during the Great Depression. So this is all coming. Also, as I stated earlier, the limited ability of the world's central banks to stimulate and revive the economy, to sustain the extend and pretend economy of the 2009 Obama recovery, where there was a recovery on Wall Street, but no recovery on Main Street. We are going to see the effects of this, where no matter how much they inject into the repo markets, no matter how many purchases of equities from their trading desks at the central banks, or their intervention in the bond market, that it will not be able to stop the economic downturn. And the economic downturn, in my opinion, is really going to rear its ugly head in a way that the plausible deniability by the mainstream media and your financial advisor that is essentially clueless as to what is happening, that plausible deniability gets destroyed at the end of this year. So the extreme social and political polarity that now exists in the 2009 post-Lehman crisis during the next economic downturn is going to be so shocking that the central banks will be forced to invoke both a reset and a new monetary policy based on a new currency in order to rectify or prevent the recession of 2020 from turning into a full-blown Great Depression of 2021. Now, I still believe we will go into some form of depression by 2021. We will see the recession begin by late December of this year. So as we get closer and closer to a global financial reset, capital flight will occur as liquidity in the system and cash flow dries up, with investors seeking to escape the ravages of a deflationary crisis, which often has led to capital controls that are intended to keep capital in the country and the currency so that it can be more easily taxed or devalued. So you're going to see money go into Bitcoin. You're going to see money go into gold. You're going to see money go into silver. You're going to see money go into a number of hard assets at a level we have never seen. And I'm not talking about the central banks, which are making the greatest purchases of gold. The largest purchases of gold have occurred in the past 15 months during the entire 20th century. So this should be something that's mainstream news, but it is not.
To watch the full presentation and more like this on geopolitics, the economy, and world events from an archetypal and mundane astrological perspective, join the Global Transformation Astrology membership. Go to gta.williamstickevers.com. Become a GTA member today.